guys, and welcome back to my channel. The case that I'm going to be looking into today... Oh, actually, before we get into it, notice the hair colour. I've dyed my hair since. I'm probably going to release this video sooner, and I've got a couple sort of in line and scheduled to go, because I like to be in front. So, there's going to be some hair colour changes. I just thought I'd tell you. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, that's why my hair's super bright, and maybe in the next video it won't be. Or whatever. But yeah. Just thought I'd let you know. So the case we're actually going to look into today it was suggested to me the other day, and it was basically because once more we find ourselves in 2022 with genetic genealogy being the best thing ever, and it's solving all these old cases. Okay, this case isn't solved, but it's another sort of John Doe case where we had no idea who this person was, and now we do, and it is the Somerton Man. Not sure if anyone's heard of him. I've never done this case before, so as with the one I did the other week, Princess Doe, I'm going to go through the details of the case, and then I will let you know the information we have found out very recently, like, I mean, I don't know, a few days ago at this point. This case is an old one. We're going to jump back to 1948, so let's do that right now. On the 1st of December in 1948, a teenager, Neil Day, 16-year-old, was riding horses with one of his friends along a place called Somerton Beach. It's in Adelaide in Australia. Now, this is where they came across a man fully clothed in a suit and tie lying on the beach. And they kind of just didn't really think much of it, because obviously he's probably just having a kip, or he's having a nap, or anything other than what the actual truth was. Like, that's not what you would initially think. So they go on the ride, and then when they come back a little bit later on, the man has not moved an inch. He's still in the exact same position, and they begin to think something's a bit weird about that. So this is when they find out that actually this man was deceased. Now, obviously they called the authorities, and they found that he had no form of identification on him whatsoever. He also had no tags inside of his clothes, which a lot of people do think is strange, but on the other hand, maybe tags sometimes do irritate you. Some more so than others, so some people just cut them out, I guess. But also that led to a lot of theories later on in the case. You know, just someone trying to hide their identity, I guess, like cutting out the tags. They didn't want anyone to know who they were. I mean, he literally didn't carry any identification either, so maybe this person didn't want to be known. I don't know, but yeah, it led to a lot of theories. They took his fingerprints, and they didn't find those in any of the databases whatsoever. Bearing in mind, this was the late 40s, so I don't know how advanced fingerprinting was back then. Who knows at this point? I don't have a clue. But yeah, they didn't find him, and no one came forward to claim him as their family member or their friend or whoever. They did an autopsy, and they found that he had a really large spleen, like abnormally large spleen. He did have internal bleeding in his stomach and liver, but then there was no sort of evidence of any violence or anything like that, and they didn't find any evidence of poisons in his system. Now, that doesn't go to say that there are poisons out there that leave no trace or shortly sort of degrade themselves after a person has died. Because there are. I don't know what they are, but there certainly are. So, you know, just because there was no poison found then doesn't mean that in particular he wasn't poisoned. Who knows? The coroner actually wrote on his report, like, he is unable to say who this person was, and he's also unable to say how this person died. Then 1 month after his body was actually found, a suitcase was found in Adelaide train station. It was in the cloakroom, and it was weird. Like, they found items of clothing inside that, also with the tags cut out. There was like a waxed thread that was not sold anywhere in Australia, and it would often be used to repair the trousers that the Somerton Man was wearing, which was the name that he was given because of where he was found. And it may have been believed that he could have been to the United States sort of recently. It was also said that they found the name Keane on like some of these clothes. I don't know if it was written on with like a pen or stitched on or something like that, but it was Kean and also Keane. both sort of spellings were all in that suitcase. They also found like stationery and just odd bits of bobs found in the suitcase, but none of that led to an identification of this man. 4 months go by, and then they come across this very strange thing. It was like a secret pocket hidden within the seam of this gentleman's pants, and when they found this, they obviously had a look inside. It's only small, and they pulled out this small rolled up piece of paper, and on this piece of paper were the words "Tamam should," and those words are Persian. They were typed out, they're Persian, and it had been ripped out of something. Now it turns out that it had actually been ripped out of this Persian book. It's quite a rare book. It's from the 11th century. It's got Persian poems in it, and this was like in the last page of the book, and it was sort of at the very bottom. And roughly translated to English, it means like the end or finished or something along those lines. After this was found, I'm not sure the details as to why, but it was said that another coroner then found his death to be not natural. It gets even stranger because 3 months after that, a businessman actually had read about this man being found on the beach, the Somerton Man, and this paper obviously that he had on him in a secret pocket. And he comes to the police with a book, and it was the book which is called the Rubaiyat, and he comes to them saying that basically he had parked his car very close to that beach with his windows down, and then when he came back to his car later on, like either the next day or something like that, I'm not entirely sure, he ends up finding a copy of the Rubaiyat in his car. So it is assumed that probably this man, before he goes on that beach and dies for whatever reason, ripped out this piece of paper, put it in his secret pocket, and then dumped the book in someone else's car. And funnily enough, it definitely was the same book, because you turn to the end page and there is a perfectly shaped missing piece, which obviously this piece that he had fits inside of the book. It's the missing piece of the puzzle. But even stranger, like this case is really strange anyway, but even stranger, when you turn to the very back page, there's like all of these letters and jumbled up. Just doesn't make any sense, but it's like 5 lines of it. One of them's like scribbled out, and at the end, very bottom, is a phone number, or what they assume to be a phone number. So it got people thinking right away that this was some sort of code, and obviously people did want to try and crack it. To this day, I don't believe it's been cracked yet. Like, nobody has a clue what this code is. I don't know, nobody's been able to crack it anyway. But the phone number, strangely enough, when they called that, it ended up going to a nurse called Jessie Jo Thompson, and she was 27 years old at the time. And not even more weirdly, but weirdly as well, she also owned a copy of this book. But she said that she gave it to a man called Alfred Boxall. Now, when they did track Alfred Boxall down, he had a perfectly preserved copy of the book, like no missing pages, no writing in it or anything. So they're assuming that that is definitely the book that, you know, she gave to him, rather than her giving it to the Somerton Man. When she was shown a picture of the man, it was said that she almost fainted, but then claimed that she did not know who this man was. Sorry, no, it wasn't a photo. They had made a cast, like a death mask of his face, and he had since been buried, obviously. So that's what they showed her. They didn't show her a photo, they showed her this mask of his face, and apparently that's when she fainted, but then claimed that she didn't know him, which in my eyes is very strange anyway, because you don't faint when you see somebody's face that you don't even know. Do you know what I mean? Unless it's because it was like a death mask and she knew that that was a man's face. I don't know. I don't think anyone would faint at that. Personally, I might be wrong. I would lean more towards that she did in fact know him, but obviously that's just my opinion on it. Jessie did deny that she knew this man until the day she died, and I believe she died in like 2006, 7, something like that. I may be completely wrong with that. I may have just made that completely up. Just trying to remember it, and it's not working very well. So yeah, sorry if I've got that wrong. And then that was all they had on the case, pretty much. I do know that Jessie's daughter came forward like years after she died and said that her mother would go on about the Somerton Man, how she had actually known him, but then she would never let on as to his identity. Whether that's true, I'm not saying that she's lying, the daughter, at all. I'm just, whether the mum was telling the truth, who knows at that point. Whether she did know him or she didn't know him, she never ever relayed that information to anyone. Well, she claimed that she did to her daughter, but never his identity or anything like that. So obviously, there was a lot of theories in this case, and I mean a lot. You're thinking this man's just turned up deceased on a beach, fully clothed, with all this coding in the back of this book that he's put in someone else's car. It's weird. He's got no tags in his clothes, no nothing, no identification. Straight away, people are thinking spy. And they were thinking spy. It was one of the massive theories in the case at the time that he didn't have any fingerprints anywhere, that he was cut his things that was close so nobody knew where he bought them from, nobody could trace him, didn't have any ID. Spy. And that maybe he had been murdered for some reason or another as a result of that. Or even taken his own life knowing that they were coming for him. I don't know. There was a theory that came out that basically said that he could have been, you know, murdered as a result of like this romantic relationship. There was also a lot of speculation around one of Jesse's sons, which he had around the time of him being there. And not only that, he had a striking resemblance to the Somerton Man, so there's obviously a lot of questions around that too. I don't think they could ever do a DNA test on him because sadly the son actually passed away before they ever made like this connection, I guess. But there's a lot of sort of speculation surrounding that as to whether he was actually the father and she did in fact know him. Again, no idea on that one. These are just theories that we're coming up with at the time. And then, of course, there's the fact that he could have potentially done it to himself. There's always that fact in these cases, pretty much. But let's get into what we found recently. So it's been like 73, 74 years, I believe, that this has been sort of one of Australia's most famous cases. And they've been trying to solve it for all of that time. Not only have they been trying to solve who this man was, but obviously whether he was murdered or what actually happened to him. Now we can check off one of those boxes because we still don't know what happened to him. But we do have more of an idea of who this man was. Now it's not actually being officially confirmed by authorities, I don't believe. I mean, I literally looked into this yesterday, which was what, the 30th? And there was still no word on the police actually confirming it, but a genetic genealogist actually managed to get some hairs from his death mask, you know, the cast of his face. Some hairs had gotten stuck in that. She took that to a DNA genealogy place where they managed to extract the DNA and get a good profile off of that. They did the magic in the genealogy database and worked tirelessly to try and find his family members. And I believe they actually managed to find one of his cousins. Now, last year his body was actually exhumed as well. So whether the police are waiting on maybe doing it off of that DNA that's actually on his body rather than the hers that was in his cast, but that's still his DNA in it, like, at the end of the day. So whether they're waiting on that before they confirm this or whatever, I don't actually know, but his body was exhumed as well. So we might get more information on that later on, who knows. But they managed to find his cousin. I'm getting a bit off track here. And then they tried to expand the family database to try and find who he was, basically. And they came up with like 4,000 people, I believe. And then they narrowed that down until they got to one Carl Charles Webb. Now, Carl Webb was born in 1905 in a suburb of Melbourne. He was later identified as a person without a death record. So obviously the Somerton Man was unknown for 70 odd years. So if Carl is this guy, which we're thinking that it's pretty much certain that he is, then you know, he wouldn't have ever got a death certificate because they never knew that he died, essentially. And sadly, not much is really known about him because you've got to think, he died in the 40s. He was born in 1905. Anybody that would have known him, like family members or anything like that, would have sort of passed away since. Or if children knew him at the time, they probably wouldn't remember. So it's really hard to try and find out like a lot more information on him. We do know that he was an engineer and an instrument maker, so not a spy. Yeah, definitely not a Russian spy. So I guess that theory goes out the window. They did find out that he was the youngest of 6 siblings and that he was married to a woman called Dorothy Robinson. Now apparently they didn't have a very good marriage, sadly, or at least it wasn't a very happy marriage, and they did end up divorcing well, I don't know if they divorced, splitting up, divorcing, whichever one, in April of 1947, and then they both went their separate ways. It's thought that she went over to the south, and nobody knows what happened to him, basically, until he turned up on that beach and became a Somerton Man. So yeah, that is all the information we have on it at the moment. We finally have found this man's identity, which is amazing. Obviously, everything with genealogy technology today is great, and just keep it coming, keep these cold cases coming, and get these people their identities back, and get these cold cases solved. I'll keep my eye on it, see if any more information comes out on it. But yeah, I just thought I would cover this case, let you guys know that he finally has his identity back, which is amazing. Anyway, that's the end of the case. If you guys enjoyed the video, give me a big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for similar content, and that's all I have today on the case of the Somerton Man, who we now know is Carl Webb. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye.